Imagine this. A 17-year-old boy walks home in the rain. He is carrying nothing but a bag of Skittles and a can of iced tea. He is talking on the phone with his girlfriend. He is wearing a gray hoodie to stay dry. Then a man with a gun spots him, calls the police, and says his teenager looks suspicious. Says these assholes always get away. Ignores the dispatcher, who tells him to stay in his car. Gets out, follows the boy, confronts him, and then a single gunshot ends a young life. This is not a scene from a movie. This is not ancient history. This is February 26th, 2012, in a quiet gated community in Sanford, Florida. The boy's name was Trayvon Martin. The man with the gun was George Zimmerman. And what happened that night did not just take one innocent life. It exposed something rotten at the heart of American justice. How does an unarmed black teenager buying candy become a threat worthy of being stalked and shot? Why was the shooter released the same night with no arrest? Why did it take weeks of national outrage before charges were even filed? Because in America, sometimes a hoodie is not just clothing. Sometimes it is a death sentence. Sometimes walking while black is enough to make someone assume you do not belong. Trayvon Martin was not committing any crime. He was not breaking into houses. He was not hurting anyone. He was simply existing in a space where someone decided his skin color, and his hoodie made him dangerous. And when the system looked at the evidence, a dead child, a man who ignored police instructions, a community that rushed to protect the shooter, it chose to look the other way. This is the Trayvon Martin shooting, the case that ripped the bandage off America's racial wound and showed the world how deep the infection really goes. The case that gave birth to a movement because millions of people finally said enough. If you think this was just one isolated tragedy, you are wrong. If you think justice was served when George Zimmerman walked free, you are wrong. And if you believe this could not happen again tomorrow to another black boy walking home from the store, keep watching, because what you are about to hear will make your blood boil. It will challenge everything you thought you knew about stand your ground and self-defense in America. And it will show you why, even in 2025, the ghost of Trayvon Martin still walks these streets. If this story already has your heart racing, if the image of a scared teenager being followed in the rain makes you angry, if you believe no child should ever lose their life because of the color of their skin and a piece of clothing, then do not let this video disappear into the algorithm. Right now, while the fire is still burning in your chest, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications, because these are the stories America tries to bury. These are the truths they do not teach in schools. These are the cases that expose how discrimination still hides behind laws and self-defense claims. Your like and subscribe do not just support this channel. They tell the algorithm that the world still cares about justice for Trayvon. They help more eyes see what really happened that night. They refuse to let his name be forgotten. Do it now for Trayvon, for every black parent who still has to teach their sons how to survive a simple walk home. Hit like, subscribe. Let's keep going. What you are about to experience is not just another recap of headlines. This is the full, unflinching story of the Trayvon Martin shooting. The details they glossed over, the evidence they downplayed, the systemic failures that let a killer walk free. We are going deep into that rainy February night in Sanford, Florida. We will walk step by step with Trayvon as he leaves the 7-Eleven, talks to his girlfriend, notices he is being followed. We will hear George Zimmerman's own words from the 911 call. We will sit in the courtroom during the trial. We will examine the disputed struggle, Rachel Jeantel's heartbreaking testimony, the bloody nose versus a dead teenager. But we will not stop at the surface. We will expose how Florida's stand your ground law created a perfect storm for tragedy. We will show the historical roots of racial profiling that made a black boy in a hoodie automatically suspicious. We will connect this single shooting to a pattern that stretches across America and beyond. You will hear how initial police decisions protected the shooter, how media spin tried to paint Trayvon as the aggressor, how the acquittal lit a fuse that became the Black Lives Matter movement. This is not comfortable viewing. It is raw. It is emotional. It is necessary. By the end of this video, you will understand why millions took to the streets chanting justice for Trayvon. You will see how one hoodie became a symbol of everything wrong with how America sees young black men And you will be forced to ask yourself the hardest question of all. In 2025, has anything really changed? This story matters because Trayvon could have been any black teenager, any son, any brother, any boy who just wanted to get home safe. It matters because the laws that failed him are still on the books in many states. It matters because the same biases that killed him still patrol neighborhoods, influence juries, and shape self-defense claims today. Stay with me, because what happened after the gunshot, the protests, the trial, the global ripple, reveals truths America still does not want to face. The promise is simple. By the time this video ends, you will not just know the facts of the Trayvon Martin shooting. You will feel them in your bones. And you might never look at a hoodie, a neighborhood watch volunteer, or a suspicious black teen the same way again. To truly understand why Trayvon Martin died that night, we have to go deeper than one rainy evening in Florida. We have to look at the soil where this tragedy grew. Centuries of racial fear, decades of policies that treat black bodies as threats, and a legal system that often gives the benefit of the doubt to the armed and the fearful. America has a long, painful history with the criminalization of blackness. From slavery to Jim Crow, from redlining to the war on drugs, black men and boys have been stereotyped as dangerous, criminal, up to no good. Social scientists have documented this for generations. The black as criminal stereotype is wired into many people's minds, activated by nothing more than skin color and clothing. Enter the hoodie. Before Trayvon, it was just comfortable clothing. After that night, it became a racial Rorschach test. Pundits openly suggested the hoodie was partly to blame, as if fabric could turn a teenager into a thug. Protesters responded by wearing hoodies in solidarity, turning a piece of clothing into a badge of resistance. But the underlying message was clear. Certain looks on certain bodies signaled danger to some eyes. Now layer on Florida's Stand Your Ground law, passed in 2005. This law removed the duty to retreat in public spaces when someone feels threatened. It expanded self-defense claims dramatically. Supporters said it protected law-abiding citizens. Critics warned it would encourage vigilantes and create racial disparities. The data proved the critics right. Studies of Stand Your Ground cases in Florida showed that defendants who killed black victims were far more likely to go free than those who killed white victims. One analysis found killers of black people walked free 73% of the time, compared to 59% for white victims. Another study showed white-on-black homicides were ruled justifiable at much higher rates, sometimes 300 to 350% more likely than other combinations. Homicide rates even rose in Stand Your Ground states. Fear plus a gun plus no duty to retreat equaled more dead bodies, disproportionately black ones. This was a legal backdrop when George Zimmerman spotted Trayvon. Zimmerman was not a trained police officer. He was a neighborhood watch volunteer with a history of calls to police about suspicious black males. He had a gun, and he had a law that told him if he felt threatened, he could stand his ground and shoot. Add in the gated community context. Retreat at Twin Lakes had seen some burglaries. Residents were on edge. But many of those suspicious persons reports targeted young black males who simply did not fit the neighborhood's image. Racial profiling was not official policy. It was cultural assumption. Nationally, statistics paint a grim picture. Black teens are far more likely to be seen as older and more threatening than white teens of the same age. Implicit bias studies show people's brains react differently to black faces, associating them faster with danger, weapons, crime. Trayvon was not the first. He would not be the last. But his case became the spark because it was so ordinary on the surface. A kid walking home with candy. No weapon. No crime. Just a hoodie and dark skin. Even the initial police response reflected the bias. Zimmerman was questioned and released the same night. No immediate arrest. The narrative quickly became he feared for his life, rather than why did an armed man pursue an unarmed boy against police advice. This background is not excuse-making. It is context. It explains why one phone call describing a suspicious black teen could escalate so fatally. It shows how laws and stereotypes collide with tragic results. And here is the part that should terrify you in 2025. Many Stand Your Ground laws remain in over 30 states. Racial disparities in justifiable homicides persist. Implicit bias training for police and civilians is uneven at best. The hoodie still triggers suspicion for many. Trayvon's death did not happen in a vacuum. It happened because America's racial machinery was already humming. Profiling, fearing, arming, and then excusing. That machinery is still running. Let's go back to that night. February 26, 2012. It is raining in Sanford, Florida. Trayvon Martin, 17 years old, is visiting his father and his father's fiancée at the retreat at Twin Lakes. He is a normal teenager who likes sports, talks to girls, goes to school. That evening, he walks to the 7-Eleven, buys a bag of Skittles and a can of Arizona iced tea. Nothing more. He is on the phone with his friend Rachel Jeantel. As he walks back, the rain is coming down, so he pulls up his gray hoodie. Meanwhile, George Zimmerman, 28, is driving through the neighborhood. He is the self-appointed neighborhood watch captain. He sees Trayvon and immediately gets suspicious. He calls the non-emergency police line. First, Zimmerman's own words paint a picture. This guy looks like he is up to no good, or he is on drugs or something. It is raining and he is just walking around, looking about. He describes Trayvon as black, wearing a dark hoodie. Then the infamous line, "These assholes, they always get away." The dispatcher asks questions. Zimmerman keeps narrating. He has got his hand in his waistband. He is coming towards me. He is running. The dispatcher tells him clearly, "We do not need you to do that," meaning stay in your vehicle. Do not pursue. But Zimmerman does not listen. He gets out of his SUV. He follows Trayvon on foot. Then the confrontation begins. According to Rachel Jeantel, who was still on the phone with Trayvon, the teenager noticed he was being followed. Trayvon sounded scared. He told Rachel the man was creepy. "Creepy ass cracker," he said at one point. Trayvon asked why the man was following him. Rachel heard Trayvon say, "Why are you following me for?" Then a man's voice, "What are you doing around here?" A bump. Sounds a struggle. Wet grass. Trayvon saying, "Get off. Get off." Then the phone goes dead. What happened in those final moments is fiercely disputed because only two people were there and one of them is dead. Zimmerman's version. Trayvon attacked him without provocation, punched him in the face, slammed his head against the concrete sidewalk, tried to take his gun. Zimmerman, fearing for his life, pulled the trigger and shot Trayvon once in the chest at close range. Zimmerman had a bloody nose and injuries to the back of his head. He claimed self-defense under Florida law. Police arrived quickly. They found Trayvon face down, unresponsive. No weapon on him. Just Skittles, iced tea, and his cell phone. Zimmerman was taken into custody. Questioned for hours, but released the same night. The lead investigator wanted to charge him with manslaughter, believing the confrontation could have been avoided, but higher-ups cited stand your ground and self-defense. No arrest. Word spread. Trayvon's family demanded answers. Why was the shooter free? Why was their son painted as the aggressor? Weeks of protests erupted across the country. People wore hoodies to marches. Celebrities spoke out. The case went viral. Finally, in April 2012, a special prosecutor charged George Zimmerman with second-degree murder. The trial in 2013 became a national spectacle. 6-woman jury. Intense media coverage. The defense painted Zimmerman as a victim, a man who feared for his life after being attacked. They highlighted his injuries. They questioned Rachel Jeantel's credibility on the stand. Her testimony was powerful but emotional and sometimes hard for the jury to follow. The prosecution argued Zimmerman profiled Trayvon, pursued him unnecessarily, and escalated the situation. They said the voice screaming for help on a 911 call was Trayvon's, not Zimmerman's. Audio experts were called. Witnesses from a neighborhood gave conflicting accounts of who was on top during the struggle. But the jury, after hours of deliberation, found Zimmerman not guilty on July 13, 2013. They accepted the self-defense claim. The verdict hit like a bomb. Protests exploded again. Justice for Trayvon became a rallying cry. Alicia Garza wrote a Facebook post that led to the hashtag Black Lives Matter. The movement was born in that moment of outrage. Trayvon's parents, Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin, spoke with quiet dignity. They turned their grief into advocacy. but the pain never left. Even years later, in 2025, the case remains a symbol, a reminder that an unarmed black boy with candy can be seen as a threat, that following someone against advice can end in death, and the shooter can walk free. The core story is heartbreaking in its simplicity. Trayvon just wanted to get home. Zimmerman saw a threat where none existed. A gun turned suspicion into tragedy. The law shielded the shooter. The system failed the victim. We have just walked through the full nightmare of what happened to Trayvon Martin that night. Now I want to hear from you. If you were a 17-year-old black boy walking home from the store in a hoodie, being followed by an armed stranger who called you suspicious, what would you do? Would you run? Would you confront him? Would you trust the system to protect you afterward? Drop your honest answer in the comments below. Would you have stayed silent hoping it blows over? Or would you have fought back like Trayvon seemed to? I read every single comment. Let us talk about it. Your voice matters here. Trayvon Martin's death did not stay in Sanford, Florida. It sent shockwaves around the world. The acquittal of George Zimmerman helped spark the Black Lives Matter movement, which quickly went global. Protests erupted in London, Paris, Toronto, Sydney, and beyond. People in other countries saw their own struggles with racial profiling and police violence reflected in Trayvon's story. In the UK, similar cases of young black men stopped and searched or dying in custody gained new attention. In France, debates about police treatment of minorities intensified. In Canada and Australia, Indigenous and black communities drew parallels to over-policing and vigilante attitudes. But the hidden truth is deeper. Stand your ground-style laws or self-defense expansions exist or influence policy in various places. More importantly, the bias that killed Trayvon, seeing black youth as inherently threatening, is not uniquely American. Statistics show persistent racial disparities in deadly force incidents worldwide. In many Western countries, black and minority youth face higher rates of stops, searches, and use of force. Clothing, hoodies included, still trigger suspicion in some policing cultures. In 2025, reports continue to document cases where unarmed black individuals are killed in self-defense or fear is cited. Similar to Trayvon, initial investigations sometimes favor the shooter. Media sometimes emphasizes the victim's clothing or past rather than the circumstances. The hidden systemic policy? Many places still lack robust implicit bias training for civilians with guns or neighborhood watch programs. Self-defense laws in various jurisdictions give wide latitude when fear is claimed, and studies show that fear is often racially skewed. Mind-blowing fact. Analyses of justifiable homicides show massive racial gaps. White shooters killing black victims are far more likely to be ruled justified than the reverse. This pattern appears not just in the U.S., but echoes in other nations with high civilian gun ownership or vigilantism issues. Trayvon became a global symbol because his story was painfully relatable. An innocent errand turns deadly because of perception. The hoodie marches happened internationally. Black Lives Matter became a universal chant against anti-black racism. Yet in 2025, similar tragedies continue. Young black men still report being followed, profiled, assumed criminal. Laws protecting fear-based shootings remain in place in many U.S. states and influence thinking elsewhere. The ripple expose how racism operates through everyday interactions. A look, a call to police, a gun pulled too quickly. It showed that one shooting can awaken millions when injustice is undeniable. But the deeper hidden truth is this. The system often protects the perception of threat more than the actual innocent life. Until that changes globally, more Trayvons will fall. So here we are. A boy is dead. The shooter is free. The laws that enabled it are largely unchanged. And America still debates whether Trayvon looks suspicious. Why do we still pretend this is fixed? If this had been a white teenager in a hoodie buying candy, would Zimmerman have followed him? Would police have released the shooter the same night? Would the jury have bought the self-defense story so readily? These questions are not comfortable, but silence is complicity. Every parent of a black son still has a talk, not about birds and bees, but about how to survive being perceived as a threat. Do not run. Keep hands visible. Speak calmly, because one wrong move, one hoodie, one rainy night can be fatal. Why does America allow armed civilians to play judge, jury, and executioner based on gut feelings shaped by racist stereotypes? The anger is justified. The grief is justified. The demand for change is justified. Trayvon's death forced a reckoning. But reckonings without structural change are just performances. Stand your ground laws still exist. Racial bias and perceptions of danger still kills. The criminal justice system still sometimes values the shooter's fear over the victim's life. If you are watching this and feeling nothing, ask yourself why. If you are angry, channel it. Speak up. Support policies that address bias. Teach your children differently. Demand accountability when another suspicious black teen is targeted. Because until we dismantle the idea that black skin plus hoodie equals threat, more names will join Trayvon's. We owe it to him to stay angry enough to act, to refuse the comfortable lie that it was just one case. It was not. It is a pattern, and patterns demand disruption. Trayvon Martin went to buy Skittles and iced tea. He never made a home. One man's suspicion, one ignored instruction, one gunshot, and an innocent life ended. The system that followed protected the shooter more than the victim. The verdict told the world that fear justified by bias can be a license to kill. His death did not just break one family. It cracked open a conversation about who gets to feel safe in America, about whose life is valued, about how clothing and color can still be a death sentence in the so-called land of the free. Even in 2025, the symbol remains powerful. The hoodie still speaks. The name Trayvon still echoes, because his story is every black parent's nightmare, every young black man's reality check. The unforgettable truth is this. Trayvon Martin was killed for walking while black, for wearing the wrong clothes in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time, according to one man's biased eyes. Justice was not served. The movement it sparked continues because the underlying problems persist. We cannot bring Trayvon back, but we can refuse to let his death be in vain. We can demand better laws, better training, better humanity. His short life mattered. His death must continue to matter. Thank you for watching until the end. It means the world in a world that often scrolls past these stories. If this video opened your eyes to the truth behind the Trayvon Martin shooting, please share it with someone who needs to see it. Smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and watch the next video in this series. The shocking story of another American case where racial profiling turned deadly. Together we can make sure these stories are never buried again. Comment below with your thoughts. Like if you stand for justice. Subscribe if you refuse to stay silent. Trayvon's name lives on through us. Until next time, stay aware, stay angry, stay demanding better,